Hey guys, welcome back to Tough Love with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Menray Laser. Their Class 4 laser is absolutely the strongest laser on the market, and we get amazing results. Let's get at it. What's up, Matt?
Not much, Doc. Good to be back. So, getting into the fourth quarter of January, coming off to a hot start. How would you say the beginning of first quarter is going and where we're at right now?
You know what? Right now, it's a little bit chaos. And, I think that's a good thing. But I definitely think that where we're at right now is something that's going to kind of gut check us in regards to we're restructuring the business. We had a couple key losses in the fourth quarter of 2023 that we're still restructuring from. But we also had some amazing gains. I believe that where we're going is going to be something that is bigger and better. And I don't mean that in cliche, like your typical New Year's resolution, bullshit, if you will. I don't like to normally curse, but I think that what we're seeing now with our Core 4 technologies and what we're doing and the energy that that's bringing is something that shows great promise. But again, the biggest thing is just countering chaos, right? And I think that, the team that we have remaining is doing a fantastic job. We have a bunch of new members coming on. But there's a lot going on, and today we're going to dig into business, personal, and fitness and just get after it. So that's it.
Love it. And the biggest thing is strong finish, strong start. I would say we finished pretty strong as a team. But what's a message you can get out there to just any type of business owner when they get deep into the fourth quarter, year end? How
start? Yeah, let me grab you there. So year end, you want to close strong, right? And year beginning, when you're starting that new year, you're dealing with, especially in healthcare, the one thing that we saw that in starting our Core 4 technologies and it's, patient funded is we're not dealing with our traditional healthcare woes of co-insurances and deductibles, this and that, because patients are aggressively seeking us because traditional healthcare is failing them. If you'd have told me that a decade ago, I would have said no way. And I know that, the Core 4 with regards to tracking has been your baby, and obviously the promotion within our other company you're attached to, I'm blown away that we're going to double our, month 1, 2023 to 2024. And we almost did that in the first 2 weeks.
Right.
I think everybody out there that is an entrepreneur running a small business, you're going to want to support small business. And I love Jamie from Eat Clean Bro because that's one thing that I'm always looking at. And, obviously he's further along than us. He's moved to different states and whatnot, but he makes it a point to stress the importance to support small business.
Right.
I think as much as it sounds great, when there's private equity groups and being bought out, I think that's an exit game for everybody, right? I think everybody wants to have their business grow and have the complement of some big company coming down and swooping up and buying them and changing their life, right? But the reality is our job as a business that offers healthcare is to run it at a profit, right? And healthcare doesn't work that way anymore. You have to really be creative in what you do, how you do, and how you do it. I see it with one of our medical partners we own a building with. He is a primary care practice. I'm going to say it right now. His name is Brendan Mulholland, absolute stud. He changed the face of Monmouth County internal medicine when he was the first and maybe one of the only doctors to step up during COVID and be open 7 days a week, 24/7 to be available. I mean, every practice. And we're in what they call the block on Maple Avenue in Red Bank at one of our locations. And that was ground zero. And, he made a decision to do that and it's forever changed his life for the better. And I think, much to our, talking about countering chaos, we saw it in our physical medicine, our physical therapy department, and why we launched Velocity HP Coaching. what once was a very lucrative business in that way has become managed by managed healthcare systems.
Right.
And quite frankly, I feel bad for the young practitioners because I almost want to show them, hey guys, talk to our accountants. It's not us.
Right.
We would love to tell you that we could bonus you out of this, but we can't pull money. We
Yeah.
can't draw blood from a stone.
And
right?
I was just going to ask you, what's your advice to young practitioners coming up that are getting ready to do what you're doing right now? What's your advice to them in regards to how they can grow and how to keep stable financially and how to keep a very close-knit team by their side?
I'm always positively blowing up my social media team. I think Clean Media is, going to be one of the most amazing companies in 5 years. They'll be a top team in the state, and they do amazing work. These young practitioners, try to infiltrate the market by doing that, and I think that's great. I think you have to diversify. I think you have to be different. I think the days of how when I first started practicing and just being a workhorse and I would outwork my competition and I would see 80, 90, 100 patients in a day and still wasn't one of those chiropractors that was just adjusting, going, we were stretching everybody and they were getting hit with the machine that's a DMS and, all these different massage things and exercise and therapeutic activities and all these different things. And, they're doing other things, but like, there's a awesome chiropractor that's in Marlboro that films all the time, great content. And, a lot of it is like structural weightlifting and this and that. And when he called me, I had given him great advice and I was just like, you're one of one, right? So now how do you have a vacation? How do you get a week off?
Right.
Your style is so unique that it's not transferable, right? So if you want coverage, who's going to cover it, give you coverage is going to be able to show proper form on a deadlift and a snatch and all these different things, which stops them in their tracks.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're so unique, you've almost, guaranteed that you're stuck and you're married to that. I always talk about, shouting out like Lebranos, right? And these businesses that we, it's a friend that has it. And, he is probably one of the most successful restaurateurs in Monmouth County. And his consistency is always showing up, whether it's him, his family, they're there. And, some of it is, how do you get freedom, right? Like to force yourself to go. And in his head, I think the only time he really takes off is when he goes back to his house in Italy.
Right.
And I said one of the innovative things that, countering chaos for me was my goal in 2024 was mastering our system that we're coaching to other practices. And meaning that another practitioner can step in and do what I do and execute it that way. And probably the biggest thing that I listen to when I'm trying to pull the pearls out of, an Ed Milet podcast or Brendan Bouchard or any of these guys that are fantastic, Tony Robbins, is how to duplicate success in multiple locations. And it's probably the greatest enigma or challenge that we have is getting everybody to push and act like an owner.
Yeah.
Motivate without making them feel like you're trying to run them in the ground. I see a lot of our competition with mindsets of they're going to run you in the ground. And in month 11, they already have the jobs on Indeed because they know they're going to burn you out.
Right.
I've never wanted that, circumstantially with a couple of people leaving at the end of 2024 or 2023 rather, that had happened. But in looking at those providers and nothing against them, they didn't have that type of fiber in them to stay. I knew that would break them. Even if they owned it, they would have went out of business. It's just not what they had. They didn't have that grit.
Right.
And, and it was like us battling back from Hurricane Sandy and we didn't have power. We were out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And, we were sitting there, only operated till 3 o'clock, because the lights were going out and we were waiting for Red Bank to go back, or after COVID, building it back brick by brick. That's always been our mentality, but that's not enough. It's about mastering these systems and implementing systems and teaching. You have to give whatever your gift is. Your team has to emulate and be you. They have to be them, but they have to be able to deliver what you're doing that's getting that success.
Right.
And then you truly have freedom. And I think that's the biggest part of the chaos that I'm seeing right now. I'm working a little bit more. I'm seeing more patients, and I don't mind it. But what I realized is like, hey, listen, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 6-month plan? What's my 10-year plan?
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I want to practice because I want to practice. I don't want to practice because I have to practice. And that's going back to your question. That's what I would tell practitioners. How do you get to where you have a job where you're barely making it and you're literally going to have to work your whole life and live a modest life? Or how do you create financial freedom by diversifying, right? You know, like in 2023, we launched the podcast, we launched the coaching, we launched the anti-aging, you know, and then we started going after being a brand ambassador for, you know, MedRay laser, cryoscience, and, you know, EMS Dolo class, and, you know, who am I missing? Pulse Pen.
Pulse Pen.
And, you know, I was intrigued by that because that is really the next progression, right? By educating people what we're doing to show them, hey guys, you just don't have to be like everybody else. Being unique is okay.
Right.
And it's pretty cool.
Right.
You should try it sometime.
Right. And there's bad chaos, there's good chaos. My opinion, we're in the middle of the good chaos that's happening right now. So how do you go about balancing all of these? We got 4 businesses going. You have 4 main companies we're working with, soon to be an extra 2, possibly 3 more. How do you manage everything to where it stays good chaos and doesn't turn bad?
Well, when we took on all those roles coming into January, there was a lot going on, you know, in the fourth quarter of 2023, and it's, you know, it's still going on. And what I realized is that we need to act like a fashion company, much like when I was talking to Mo from Athletic Freak, that they want to be a year ahead in fashion. Big fashion houses, Hugo Boss, this and that. When, you know, friends with those people, they're like, they're 2 years ahead. The best way to get freedom is organization and plan, you know, February, March there. I had a great conversation with our social media because that's a huge part. So, you know, in talking with the owner, Sean, the owner of Clean Media, you know, we had said that we need to be better at having all of our content for January, February, March done. So that way we can see what's working, what's not working. And we're so far ahead that if something didn't work in February, we go back in. Because if we lose, they lose.
Right.
Right. If we're not growing, they're not growing.
Right.
And I think when partnerships are clearly defined and the roles are clearly established and what your job is, I think everybody does better with that. And even like with the coaching, like, you know, we're doing a great job with the practice we're coaching right now. And we have, I think, 6 in the hopper that are very interested. And the reality is each one's unique. Right. And, you know, I don't know if they're countering chaos. I think it's more like managing mediocrity, right?
Yeah.
You know, our chaos is, how are you doing when you lose your, you know, your GM of 10 years to a better opportunity, or your lead PT,
Right.
You know, and staff around them.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel it's a good test as just being the business owner of, can I do this? Yes, we can.
100%. Listen, you know, one of our last episodes, we talked about the fact that we're letting go of the freehold property, but these young practitioners are coming to me all the time, and I would never take a building that size again without buying it. It was so, I look back at it and I don't often say I made a mistake, but there I truly made a mistake because it wasn't that it wasn't the right space. It should have been a transaction for a purchase. You know, it would have been cheaper to be paying an $8,000 a month mortgage than a $30,000, you know, construction loan and lease.
Right.
And then you also have equity on the back end. So if you don't want to run the practice anymore, you could be leasing the building out, and now you're still making money. You just don't run your practice there.
Right.
So, you know, I think it's, you know, winning or learning, never losing. So I realized that I kind of mastered like the perfect square footage of a space, and then also the synergies, what needs to be in it for it to go. And that's one of the things that I love. You know, as of late, I've been increasing my workout volume. I took a couple injuries, as you know, and you know, it's part of the grind. But when I'm sitting at, Baron Birch or whatever, between the ice bath and the sauna and talking to all these young entrepreneurs, these young kids, and they're picking my head for advice. I'm like, don't bite off more than you can chew. Because you really got to be a hard ass with yourself, because when all of a sudden, stuff gets real, and it can get real really quick. Like, out of nowhere, right during the transition of the chaos starting for us in the end of fourth quarter, the landlord hits us with a $5,000 a month increase in the rent.
Yeah.
And, I always chuckle. And I think as you get older in life, you start realizing the importance of having faith in religion. I go, sometimes, I thought it once when I was paralyzed as a teenager. And then that moment when everything was going in November and December and, and even, now in January, so it's been 2.5 months, I realized I'm like, I'm being tested.
Yeah.
Right. But my whole life I've been tested.
Right.
And, I was sitting talking to a business coach a couple of weeks ago, and, I think about, hey, I was paralyzed. Hey, I fractured my skull. Hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. I had a crazy surgery. I've done a ton, and it's never stopped me. Do I move a little slower? Yeah, but you know what? We get a finite amount of time on this.
I'd say that's a little bit of chaos going on.
Yeah. And, and when I was sitting there across the Zoom with her, she's like, wow, you've been through a lot. And I've always said, you know what? I don't like that to be my story of what broke me. It's what made me.
What made you, what taught you, what you learned from, what you grew from.
1,000%. I'm going to shout out my girl, Christina, that's about to break and be the all-time leading scorer at MIT, right? And I think she'll get either next week or the week after. And
so
then
that
you go to my
game-winning
podcast,
buzzer beater.
Yeah. And she had a back-to-back buzzer beater. And, so she immediately messaged me. And that was a kid that was an absolute exceptional brainiac. She turned down a bunch of scholarships to go to MIT, which is obviously an extraordinary school. It's one of the top academic schools in the world. And what I saw in the text was the appreciation that through transferring and the hardships that she experienced there, and the praise and the trust that the MIT coach, she was there during COVID. So, and I always brag, I love my kids. I'm about to have a run of guests that are all my girls, and, Duke, MIT, Boston College, and Rutgers, and each one of them have amazing stories. But Christina's was crazy because during COVID, she had a job with Golden State and they won a world championship.
Right.
So not only did she get a chip with the Warriors, she's going to come back and, through the grace of, or I don't know if you call it a grace for some, but due to the COVID gap, she got extra time to play. And she had to get herself back in shape, and she had to negotiate with her body because, a lot of people don't realize, unless they played collegiate sports, how beat up you are.
Right.
Right. So she had to get herself back into shape. And of course, I wasn't worried. She did it. And here she is, and getting that message, that is countering chaos. She's got a wonderful boyfriend. They're in their life. She could easily just have a 6-figure job and be going. And you know what? She said, you know what? I'm closing it my way.
That could wait. Life's too short. Do it now.
You have your whole life to work.
Yeah. Do it now.
Go put a banner, go put your name on a banner and go do something when you go back and your kids go, that's mom.
Yeah.
I did that.
100%.
So, I couldn't be more proud of her. And, I think it's those things for me when I'm going through chaos. It's always the right time that one of my previous athletes or a previous patient reaches out and gives you that special little pearl that's like, I did that.
Yep.
I kept them going. I helped them realize what they were capable of. And I think when we talk about countering chaos, we have to do that with ourselves. I know this morning, my first post of the day was I was listening to Ed Milet's newest podcast, and he's talking about this crazy car ride with a taxi in Boston where they almost got injured, and the guy as soon as they got out of the car, the guy took off and had a head-on collision with somebody else. And I'm thinking about it. It's like, hey, wow, 30 more seconds in that cab and he pulls off. That's them, right? And who knows what happens.
Yeah.
So I think what we realize the most is the importance of controlling what you can't control, or controlling what you can control, and what you can't control, having understanding for it. Don't beat yourself up about it.
Right.
And you're going to either say, I can work with this, or I have to let it go.
Right.
right? It's either going to serve you or it's not.
Either way, things are going to happen in life, business in general. I'm a firm believer of it's all about how we handle things.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we have to counter chaos. If you don't, everything, all else fails.
Not to put you on the spot, but we're coming out of a crazy week. We had a crazy day, and obviously your lovely wife, and God knows she's like I think she's our team legal.
Yeah.
And she went down Thursday night into our
Yeah,
Friday
yeah.
a couple weeks ago, and that was your first marital holy, let's just call it right out, like a holy shit, right? And the funny thing about it is, I always say about your wedding, it was probably one of the most amazing emotional events that I saw. And I could hear in your voice, you're like, you were in a panic. I'm like, hey, you do you,
Yep.
take care of her and get her figured out. And we'll figure it out on our end. And I think those things make you stronger.
Right.
I got through my day, and at first, of course, I was in a panic because I was easing into my morning. I was super organized. This is going to be a great day. I got my wheelhouse there. Christian's drinking Coronas in Mexico, wherever he is. And I got my wingman, and all of a sudden I think it was like 6:47, and you were on the way to the hospital.
It was, yeah.
I was like, looked at it, I go, oh boy.
Right.
And then I'm flying out the door, and and the reality is that I don't care whether it's work or sports, because what I would touch on next is, Monday I was rushing up, had an amazing hunt last Monday. My cousins were in from Chicago, and I wanted to get a workout in. We couldn't get there for the first day, so we went in Monday night to hunt Tuesday morning, and I didn't want to miss my workout, so I was rushing through it. I went up a few pounds on a weight, which wasn't a big deal. I just was rushing and awkwardly grabbed it, and I tore a tendon in my elbow.
Right.
And I had to laugh because I'm like, that's just me.
Yep.
Right. And I smirked, and I was like, it's been a while since I did something dumb. And so my body likes to remind me. And it's like, you realize how quickly life can be humbling.
Right.
And, here we are mapping out what's going on with fitness right now. We started the meal prep in December. I've been eating 6 meals a day. So thankfully I've been getting the nutrients, and, I'm blown away to talk about, I want to talk about work, but, my love of fitness, whether I'm at, Iron Revolution or at the Fort, I think I'm going to, be hitting a couple other gyms just to kind of see what's out there and do my thing.
Going on.
And, not being able to work out, I was like, okay, we're not going to do that. It's one arm. I got another arm. I got legs. I got core. And I didn't miss a beat, right? No. I literally went into it. I'm like, hey guys, we got to ramp this up. But I will tell you that probably the most amazing thing was owning the anti-aging center.
Yep.
We doubled down and increased the BPC 157 dosage. And then we went to core 4. We went right at it. And on Monday, that first video, you didn't know whether you were looking at a quad or an arm.
Yeah, that was
pretty
freaky looking.
It was unbelievable. You couldn't see my wrist.
Yeah.
And by Friday, I had vascularization. I was back down to looking like I was 3%, 4% body fat.
Yeah.
And, but the moral of the story was, if that would have happened 2 years ago, and the reason, or almost 3 years ago now, why this podcast originated and started,
right,
I'd have been ruined. And I laughed. I went right to, hey, this is a little bit of chaos right now.
Yeah.
I went into you guys. We crowded it right away, wrapped it up, threw an Incredible Wear sleeve on there, and, headed up to Sussex like nothing happened. Yeah. Next day, same thing. Had the Mark Pro on the whole way up. And I literally looked like an advertisement for biohacking. My boy Jeff was like, dude, you have so many toys. I had the laser going. I had the Mark Pro going. If I could have fit the pen from the truck, I would have brought the pen.
Right.
And, he was like, I can't believe how hard you work. And I said, well, finish the sentence. To stay healthy. Right. I love what it feels like to have someone say, how old are you? Or, wow. Or, those kind of things, because now, and to pull a page out of one of these motivational speeches I've been listening to from The Rock, is when he was talking to University of Miami football, he said, my field used to be right here. And now my field is the set, or it was the ring when he was wrestling. And my stage is now the gym, right? Or when I'm hunting, or if I'm, mountain biking or doing something, outdoors, or, on a stalk, doing a bull hunt or something like that. And so that's why I want, having that opportunity to train is to me as valuable as the air I breathe and as important and as critical. So like today, I was in the gym today and, it was funny. This is the first Monday in probably 2 years that I didn't do a heavy push pull day. And at first I thought I was gonna be bothered, but I was crushing core, did a little bit of cardio. And I was like, you know what? You know what really sucked? Is if I didn't have the mindset to be there to show up. But I went in, I got a great workout, got to see some people that are always in there and they're like, hey, you changing up today.
Yeah.
And instead of giving them a story of what went wrong, I said, you know what? I want to work on my shoulders.
Right.
I want to work on my core and I'm building my legs.
You're doing it till you can't get it wrong.
That's
what Nick
it.
Saban, I believe, he said, you practice not until you get it right, until you can't get it wrong.
Yeah. 100%.
And, you got to practice what you preach, what you do. So behind that, what's your message to listeners? Doesn't just everyday life in general behind what we just discussed, whether it's countering chaos, practicing what you preach, how would you explain to everybody how to handle certain things when they happen in life to them, family, or business?
You know what? Chaos is going to come in many forms. And exactly like you just said, whether it's, family, business, personal, or in this situation, all of the above.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about that today. When you
Let's go, E.
Multiple. E, all of the above is stay focused.
Yeah.
First and foremost, guard your health.
Right.
When you're in chaos, don't go away from the gym, or if you're a walker or a biker or whatever you do exercise-wise,
Keep doing
stay
it.
there. Make sure if you're, one of those people that you're into nutrition and exercise, stay there. Take care of you. And I always go back to that line out of one of Tony Robbins' books that says, when you're on an airplane, and the flight attendant's at the front of the plane, before you help anybody else, put on your oxygen mask. And you got to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
From there, then you can focus on the problems.
Right.
And just like when you're in a rush, like being a college student and you're cramming and trying to get everything in, you got to break it down. Mm-hmm. You got to look at each situation and prioritize most important to least important.
Yep.
And attack them one by one.
Yeah.
And I think if you could do that, I think you're going to be okay. And then the big thing is every night, practice gratitude and be thankful for what you accomplished. Like, last week was an amazing week for us and I was so grateful. And I was floating on a cloud all weekend because some circumstances that occurred for me. And coming into this week, I said, you know what? Let's do it again. And the countering chaos is saying, instead of thinking about everything that's going wrong, and there's a shit ton of it going on right now.
Always is.
There's always going to be. It's focusing on making a positive impact, make people feel like what you're doing matters, what they're doing matters, and most importantly, what they're doing matters.
Yeah.
And I think that for all the young entrepreneurs or, students looking for a career or people going through relationships, coming in relationships, coming out of relationships, it's about understanding that silver lining and that you got to just keep working very hard.
Yeah.
Like consistency and working hard are two of the most important ingredients for success. If you could do that, you could do and accomplish pretty much anything in life.
Right.
I firmly believe that.
Sometimes all it takes is one failure or one breakup to create a million other successes in life.
That's when you go on a run.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today on the Tough Love Podcast. Today was something that was really special to us. I even learned when Matt's asking me questions and I have the opportunity to go back and forth, I'm constantly learning and realizing and being re-inspired on things that I want to work on myself, on the business, stuff to help grow. I hope you guys feel the same way. The biggest gift you could give us is sharing our message and sharing our story and following along. And of course, following us. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.